Welcome back. In this section, we'll learn how to deploy our data workflow remotely. We use local machine only for prototyping and testing our data workflows. For production grade data workflows, we need reliability and scalability, and Prefect Cloud provides just that. So what is Prefect Cloud? Prefect Cloud is a serverless managed work pool. That means it provides an environment to orchestrate your data workflows without you managing any infrastructure. It pulls your code from a GitHub repository during runtime and executes it. It provides scheduling, retries, observability, and auto scaling. So it's good for developers who want a fast setup without any DevOps. And deploying your data workflow on Prefect Cloud has many stages. So let's go through that. The first step to deploy our data workflow remotely on Prefect Cloud is to create a Prefect profile. So the profiles keep settings separate for different environments. Local for your local deployment and Prefect Cloud for your Prefect Cloud deployment. And you can list all the profiles active on your system currently by running the command prefect profile ls. So let's do that now. As you can see, our Prefect backend server is still running. We can shut this down by using the keys Control C and then pressing enter. So the server is stopped. So let me just clear my terminal and then run the command prefect profile ls. So as you can see, I have a local profile as well as a Prefect Cloud profile because I've been using Prefect Cloud for a while. So I highly suggest that you create the profile Prefect Cloud by running the command prefect profile create Prefect Cloud. So go ahead and do that now. And once you do that, let's switch over to the new profile by running the command prefect profile use Prefect Cloud. So let me just do that now. So I'm going to copy paste this command, and it says there's an error authenticating, but that's fine. Let's list the command again. So as you can see, we've shifted, we are currently using Prefect Cloud profile. So once you've done this, you need to install Prefect Cloud on your system. And you can do that by going to Prefect Docs. You can go to Quick Start and choose Cloud, and you should see both the commands which you need to do to install Prefect Cloud. And once you run the command UEX Prefect Cloud login, it will ask you for your login details, and then you can log into your Prefect Cloud. And once you do that, we can go to our next step. Our third step is to create blocks for our credentials. You should never hard code your credentials in your data workflow. And Prefect Cloud provides a secrets manager called blocks. So let's see how to create blocks to store our credentials. Firstly, let's log into Prefect Cloud through my terminal. So I'm going to type in my command prefect cloud login. So it's asking me to log in with the web browser. So I'm going to select yes. So I will authorize this login, and it says I can close this window. And you can see in the terminal that it says it's authenticated with Prefect Cloud and using this workspace. So now I can just go to my Prefect Cloud in my browser, which I've logged in now. And the way to create blocks is, and this UI is pretty similar to the UI which we saw earlier. Like, you can see our deployments, you can see our runs. And the way to create blocks is you go to settings and you go to blocks. I've already created mine, but I'll show you how to create blocks so that we can use it in our data workflow. So you come press this plus button here and you look for GitHub credentials. You can see it here. So press create and give it a block name. I would highly suggest that you give the block name as github-pat. And don't worry, I will paste all this information in our LearnWords platform so that you can read along this, and if you don't like to follow videos, you always have the opportunity to read along and complete the course. So name the GitHub credentials as github-pat and paste your personal access token here and press create. And similarly, you need to create one for GCP credentials. So look for GCP credentials. So here's this GCP credentials. So let's press create and you get this option. So here give the block name as GCP-creds. And then for project, you actually need to specify the database here. In my case, it's called DLT Hub Sandbox. So please paste the name of this in your project text field. And here in your service account, you paste the JSON file which you downloaded earlier from GCP, which has your credentials to your GCP and BigQuery. And once you do that, you press create. And then later, we'll use these blocks in our data workflow code to access these credentials. And Prefect Cloud will pull your credentials from these blocks during runtime. So let's see how to do that. In order to use these blocks which we just created in Prefect Cloud, we need to install these Prefect integrations. And it's very easy to install them. You just have to pip install -u prefect-github. So I'm just going to copy this code from here. And in my terminal, I'm going to paste this command and I'm going to run this. Similarly, I'm going to install Prefect GCP. Now we can code our data workflow to deploy it in Prefect Cloud. So let's create a new Prefect script called remote flow script. I will copy our previous data workflow and do some modifications, as we'll be reusing most of this code. So the first thing is to import all the necessary libraries. So let's import our integrations, which is Prefect GitHub, which we just installed previously. We'll import GitHub credentials, and from Prefect GCP we'll import GCP credentials. We also need to import OS as we will be setting some environment variables. So we need to pull the credentials from the secrets manager in Prefect Cloud, which is basically blocks. And the way you do that is we define a function. So let's define a function called set GitHub path env. And we'll extract the path by using the GitHub credentials. I'm going to copy this. We do load, and we'll use the block name which we assigned, which was github-pat and .token .get underscore secret underscore value. Now we'll set the environmental variable environ. So there is double underscore here, access underscore token, and we'll assign this to Pat. So what this environmental variable is basically, it's assigning the GitHub access token here. It gets the credentials from the Prefect Cloud block and shares it with our REST API source configuration. So we set this function to get the GitHub credentials. So now let's define a function to get the BigQuery or the GCP credentials. So let's create a function called make BigQuery destination. So now let's get service info. So we can do that by GCP is equal to GCP credentials dot load, and we use the name GCP dash creds, and we can define a variable called creds and type GCP dot service underscore account underscore info dot get secret value, or return empty if it doesn't exist. Then let's get project ID. So let's define a variable called project. We will do creds dot get project underscore ID. Now, using this information, we should be able to create a BigQuery destination. So we return DLT dot destinations dot BigQuery, and we give the parameter credentials is equal to creds and project underscore ID is equal to project. So this should set our destination to BigQuery, and we'll use the return object from this and pass it off as a parameter to our task function, and we'll set the destination to this object. So now let's go to our main function, and in the main function we'll set the environment variables which we just defined the functions for. So we call the function set GitHub underscore pat underscore env, which is what we just created here. Then we'll create the BigQuery destination. So we can create a variable called bqdest is equal to make bq destination. Then these will remain the same, but we need to pass this destination to our task function. So in our task function, let's create another parameter to accept this destination. So we can create bq underscore destination as, and the type as dlt dot destination dot BigQuery, and these code will remain the same. Let's change the dataset name to demo remote GitHub, and here we'll pass the BigQuery destination, which is basically bq underscore dest. And we can change the pipeline name to GitHub remote demo resource name. And the rest of the code remains the same. And since we are not deploying, we want to test our code first. So let's remove this .serve method, as .serve method is only used for deploying it locally. We do not use it to deploy it on Prefect Cloud. So we'll just call this main function, and let's save this file and see if this runs successfully. Oh, and I completely forgot to pass the BigQuery destination here. So let's do that now. And let's copy this for the other resources as well. And let's save this again. And let me clear my terminal. And let's see if our pipeline runs successfully. So I will do Python. All right. I think our pipeline successfully ran. You can see that one load package were loaded to destination BigQuery. We can cross-check this by going to BigQuery, and we'll check out this data schema, demo remote GitHub. So let's go to BigQuery, and now let's just refresh. Yeah, here. See, as you can see, under the schema demo remote GitHub, we have all the tables which we try to load. Now let's see how we can deploy this in Prefect Cloud. So the last step before we deploy our data workflow to Prefect Cloud is to push our code into a GitHub repository. So let's do that now. So in your account, go to repositories and create a new one. I'm going to name this as Prefect Demo. I'm going to leave the description as it is. I'll leave this as public. I don't want a gitignore file as I already have one in my project folder. And you could add a README as well, but I'm just going to leave it as it is. So I'm going to hit create repository. All right, so now we have our repository Prefect demo, but we need to initialize our project folder. So for that, we need to execute this command git init in our project folder. So let's go to our terminal, and I'm gonna paste this command git init. So it initialized our project folder. And now let's connect to this remote repository. So I'm going to use SSH. You can also use HTTPS if you haven't set up your SSH. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to run the command git remote add origin and the SSH which I just copied. So let's go to our terminal. All right, so now let's add the file which we want to deploy. So we add the remote flow script. And then we commit this file. And then we run the command git push -u origin main to push our file into the repository. All right, so now let's go to our repository. So as you can see, our remote flow script is in our GitHub repository. And I completely forgot to add the GitHub pipeline as well. So let's add the GitHub pipeline to our GitHub repository. All right, so we have all the files necessary now to deploy our data workflow to Prefect Cloud. Now coming to deploy our data workflow to Prefect Cloud, we need to run this command. Here we specify the flow script, our GitHub repository, the name of our deployment, and all the integrations needed to successfully run our data workflow. So let me copy this and go to our terminal. So let me just clear this. And all right, so I think it's successfully deployed. So let's go to our Prefect Cloud. Here we can go to deployments, and you can see our data workflow is successfully deployed. And let's do a quick run and see if it runs successfully. So what Prefect is doing here is fetching the code from GitHub and then executing that code in its runtime. And as you saw, we didn't have to manage any infrastructure. All right, I think it seems like our pipeline or data workflow has ran successfully, and that's it. You can see our 3 of our tasks with each of its pipeline have run successfully. So, and it's completed. So now you successfully deployed your data workflow in Prefect Cloud. And coming to scheduling your data workflow in Prefect Cloud, it's very similar to how you scheduled your data workflow on your local machine. So you go to your deployments and you have the same schedule button here, and you can specify your time interval. But if you would like to trigger your data workflow from your command line, running this command UVX prefect cloud run main and your deployment name. You can also schedule your data workflow to run at time intervals through your command line interface. You run the command UVX prefect cloud schedule and your deployment name with cron arguments. In this part, you have successfully deployed and scheduled your data workflow. In the next part, we'll see what incremental loading is and how you can implement incremental loading into your data workflow. See you then.